السلام عليكم. الله يا رب يوفقك يا شيخ.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار ثم أما بعد. It came in a hadith reported on the authority of Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, which he said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن لله أهلين من الناس قالوا يا رسول الله من هم؟ قالوا هم أهل القرآن هم أهل الله وخاصته. So here Anas ibn Malik, he reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a people, like his specific people, his people, أهلون من الناس. And then the Sahaba, they asked the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they said, Ya O Messenger of Allah, man who are these people that are, the people of Allah? He said, hum ahlul Quran. He said that these are the people of the Quran. Hum ahlullahi. They are the people of Allah. They are the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to bestow all of his favors on. Wa khasatuhu. Khasatuhu, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifies them, chooses them and picks them out and distinguishes them. And these people for his favors, the things that he gives. Because all the knowledge of this deen, it starts with the Quran. This is the book of Allah. This is the speech of Allah. It's the greatest speech. And for the people that take that, that go and work with diligence and hard working to understand the Quran, to memorize the Quran, and to practice what's in the Quran, then these are the people that definitely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed his favors upon. And this is something that we should strive for ourselves. Because the Quran is the most important book. There's nothing more important in the face of this earth to understand. We spend all our time throughout the day, giving our time to everything. But the most important thing is that we understand the Quran. And after the Quran, that we sit down and we try to understand the Sunnah. But even while we're trying to understand the Sunnah, that we never ever neglect the Quran under no circumstance. This is the book of Allah. This should take priority in all of our lives, to read it, to understand it, to act on it, and to call the people to this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent this book down. And obviously the first priority of the people to understand the Quran is that they need to understand the Arabic language. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that we sent down this Quran as a Quran Arabi. They sent it down in the language of the Arab. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ That hopefully that you will use your mind, that you will use the logic that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you to understand this book and to know that this is the truth. And to know that everything that was sent down in this book is the truth. But you need to understand the Arabic language first. And this is not something that people should be lazy about. Again, we spoke about this over and over and over again, and I will continue to remind the people that this is an obligation for each person, whether you're an Arab or whether you're non-Arab, to understand the Quran and its language, the language that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the book down in, His speech. And this is the best of languages. You know, to understand the Quran, to understand this language, it brings you sharaf, it brings you honor, it raises you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises you with this book. Just like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Inna Allah yarfa'u bihadha al-kitab aqwaman wa yada'u bihi akharin." That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises the people with this book, and wa yada'u akharin, and He debases the other people. He raises the people to seek to understand it, seek to act upon it, seek to memorize it, and to constantly read it and understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them. And He debases the other people that have no concern. They have no concern. They live their lives and they're not even concerned. They're happy with the English translations. They're happy just having other people try to explain to them what's in the Quran. No, this is the speech of Allah. You spend all your time trying to listen to the speech of the people, and you give hours upon hours for the speech of the people. How much time do you give to the book of Allah? How much time do you give to understand the book of Allah? So for the people that don't understand Arabic, or even for the Arabs that grew up with lahja and slang Arabic, and their Arabic is not strong enough to truly understand the Quran, you also have to work hard and diligently to understand this book, because this is the most important thing. This is priority number one for every single Muslim. And if this is not your priority, then what are you spending your time on? What is it that you truly love if you don't love the book of Allah? Because if you truly love the book of Allah, you would make time for it. You make time for all the foolishness in your life, because that shows you what you love. That shows you the love that you have for those things, because you make time for them. You have time to sit on social media even though you're working long hours. You have time to, waste your time watching sports even though you're working long hours. But how much time do you set aside for the book of Allah every single day? If you truly love the speech of Allah, then you set that time aside. And if you don't understand the Arabic language, then you also set that time aside to try to learn to the best of your capabilities. If you try and you work hard and you succeed or you don't succeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the reward for your work, for your hard work, for the effort that you put in. Even if you failed. Even if you failed, you still get the reward. So what do you lose? You're not losing anything. But you do lose when you turn your back on the book of Allah and you neglect it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also said, because this is a book, this is for the people to wake the people up, to bring the people back to the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to bring the people back to correct actions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, أَلَمْ يَعْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَا نَزَلَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ وَلَا يَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلُ فَطَالَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْأَمَلُ وَقَصَتْ قُلُوبُهُم وَكَثِيرٌ مِّنْهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أَلَمْ يَعْنِ Has the time not come for the people, أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ Has the time not come that you wake up and that your heart starts to become full of fear with the dhikr, with the mentioning, with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And the number one remembrance that we're talking about here is the Quran. That you read the Quran, and when you read the Quran, it brings you fear. It brings you fear of everything. It reminds you of your death. It reminds you of your standing before your Lord on the day of judgment. The speech of Allah should remind you of these things. And if it doesn't bring you fear, then obviously you're reading the Quran with a dead heart. And if you're reading the Quran with a dead heart, then that's why you're not benefiting. So the Quran is what brings the life back to the heart. And obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what brings the life back to the heart. So that's where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, أَلَمْ يَعْنِ لِلَّذِينَ It is a time not come for the people that believe, and تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ That your heart becomes full of fear at the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then He warned us from being like the people from before, the people that turned away from the book, the people that went against the guidance. He said, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلُ وَلَا يَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلُ فَطَالَ عَلَيْهِمْ أَمْرٌ And don't be like the people that were given the book from before. The people from the Jews and the Christians that were given the book before. And then وَطَالَ عَلَيْهِمْ الْأَمْرُ So the time between their messenger it became, and the time between them, it started to become long. They got further and further and further away from the messenger. Like right now, we're in the year 1446. Look how many years we are away from the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions in the best 3 generations. So what happens over time? The people over time, they start to go away little by little. And they start to neglect the Quran, and they start to turn their backs on the Quran. They start to think that, oh, what's more important that we learn about, current events and science and all this type of stuff, and you start to neglect the speech of Allah, which is the most important thing to you, the guidance for you. So he said, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلُ فَطَالَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْأَمْرُ فَقَسَتْ قُلُوبُهُم. And then after that time became long, and they started to neglect the Quran, what happened to their hearts? That their hearts started to become hardened. Because now they start to go more towards the disobedience to Allah and away from the obedience, because the Quran is your reminder. You wake up every single day and you read the Quran bit-tadabbur in the morning before you go to work, at home when you come home from work, and you're reading the Quran. It reminds you that you're a Muslim, and it reminds you of the things that you have to do as a Muslim. So this way, when you go throughout the day, you have that reminder with you. And it keeps you from falling into the things that you might fall into if you neglected the Quran. But if you neglect the Quran and you start to fall into these sins with no concern, your heart starts to become hard. And the more sins that you start to do, the further and further away that you're going to get away from the speech of Allah, and the closer and closer you're going to get towards the hellfire. And that's what we're trying to run away from. That's what we came to Islam for. We came to Islam to run away from the hellfire, not to run to it. But you keep neglecting the Quran, you run into it. So he said, فَقَصَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ وَكَثِيرٌ مِّنْهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ. He said, and the majority of the people are what? Fasiqun. Fasiqun, it comes from the word fasaqa, which means kharaja. فَفَسَقَ عَنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّهِ. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about Iblis, he said, فَفَسَقَ عَنْ أَمْرِ خَرَجَ عَنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّهِ. Because it means kharaja. It means to leave out. Fasaqa, so a fasiq is a kharij, a person who goes out of the obedience of Allah. He leaves out of the obedience of Allah. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the majority of the people. And that what? وَكَثِيرٌ مِّنْهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ. That the majority of the people, they're not going to obey what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. They're not going to take heed. And they're going to continue to go on in their neglect. And their hearts are going to continue to become hardened until they meet their deaths. And then after that, what are they going to do? So this Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down, He sent it down for us to benefit us. So we can heed this guidance. And also because it's a cure for all the sicknesses that we have in the heart. We live in the West. And what we're getting called to every single day is complete chaos. Complete chaos. You go outside and everything is just trying to pull you to the disobedience of Allah. There's no environment. And this, if you go around the city, where's the environment of obedience to Allah? We don't find it. Everything is just calling us to the disobedience of Allah. Our hearts become sick. And we start to become, if we don't love sins, we start to become complacent. Where people are committing sins around us and we don't care. Because our hearts are dead. Our hearts are hardened. Because of this neglect of the book of Allah. You're not going to find the answers out there. Outside of these walls of this masjid, you're not going to find the answers. All you're going to find is everything that's going to lead you astray. Everything that's going to cause your heart to become hardened. Everything that's going to pull you to the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The answers that you're seeking, the truth that you were always seeking, if you are truthful, is in the Quran. It's not out there. It's not with the people. It's not with your friends. It's not with your peers. It's not with the stuff that you give all your attention to. That's not where the truth is. The truth has always been with Islam. And you knew this, and that's why you accepted Islam. That's why you come to the khutbahs. That's why you come to the masjid. Because you know what the truth is. So stop neglecting it. Stop giving your attention to everything that's leading you astray. The only cure that you have for your dead heart, for your sick heart, is in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ قَدْ جَاءَتْكُمْ مَوْعِظَةٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَشِفَاءٌ لِمَا فِي الصُّدُورِ وَهُدًى وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, oh you people, قَدْ جَاءَتْكُمْ مَوْعِظَةٌ. That this reminder has come down from your Lord. This Quran has come down to remind you of the hellfire, remind you of the Jannah, remind you that the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ni'mah, the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared for the believers, and the punishment for those that He's prepared for those that disbelieve in His deen and disobey Him. This is the reminder, this is the maw'idah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down to the people. Remind you of Tawheed, remind you to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way that He's commanded you to. So he said, قَدْ جَاءَتْكُمْ مَوْعِظَةٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَشِفَاءٌ لِمَا فِي الصُّدُورِ, and a cure for the sicknesses that you find in your heart. The only cure, the only place that you're going to find that cure is in the Quran. You're not going to find it in anything else. Your love for sins, your love for being around people that are sinful, that's a sickness in the heart. That's a hypocrisy. Because if you read the Quran and you see that the Quran, it calls to the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how can you be around people that disobey Allah? How can you be in the company of people that openly disobey Allah? That's hypocrisy. That's nifaq. That's not belief. That's not the iman. So this is a sickness in the heart. A sickness in the heart that you're attracted to sins. A sickness in the heart that you're attracted to music more than you're attracted to listening to the Quran. A sickness in the heart that you sit down and watch a football game for 3 hours and won't read the Quran for 5 minutes. That's hypocrisy and a sickness in the heart. Your cure for the sickness, your cure for the sickness is to get back to the book of Allah. Is to get back to the Quran and start understanding the Quran and start getting back to the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Shifa'un fi sudur, lima fi sudur. Wahudan, it's a guidance for you. It's a guidance to you. A guidance for you that you take this guidance. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is guiding you to what? To something that He's going to raise you with. Something that brings you honor. Something that brings your dignity back. You think being out on the streets as a drug addict is giving you dignity? That's debasing you. You think going out and being sinful and drinking and smoking weed, that's bringing you dignity? That's bringing you honor? That's making you the lowest of society. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to raise you up. He's giving you Islam. Now you have the Quran. Now heed this advice. Heed what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you. This is the guidance. This is the guidance that's going to raise you. If you heed it. If you take what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told you and you do what you're supposed to do as a Muslim. And he said after that, وَهُدًى وَرَحْمَةً, and a mercy لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. This is a mercy for the believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you this book and detailed everything that you need to do. And He's laid out everything for you. Everything. And then He sent His messenger, and His messenger explained everything for you. So you have the Quran, you have the Sunnah, you have everything for you. Everything's right there. That's a mercy. He didn't leave you to guess. He didn't leave you here sitting here thinking like, well, what does it mean? Well, and start using your opinions. No, everything is laid out for you. We have books of tafsir. We have books of hadith. We have everything that explains the Quran and makes it easy for us to understand. What excuse do you have? Take the mercy. Take the guidance. Take the cure for the sicknesses in the heart. And spend this time with the Quran. Because like I said, it's the only cure. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyuhan nas. No. Kul huwa lilladhina amanu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, He said, Kul huwa lilladhina amanu. Hudan wa shifa. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about this again, to show that this is a guidance and it's a cure for the sicknesses of the heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to them that this Quran is only for the what? Is a guidance. What? A guidance and a cure for the what? For the diseases of the heart. He said, Kul huwa lilladhina amanu, but it's only for the believers. It's only for the believers. The only people that's going to benefit from this book are the people that truly believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and are ready to carry out those commands. Not the people that are flip-flopping and wishy-washing. The people that are trying to do their best. Even if we fall short, it doesn't matter, but we try our best. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ إِمْرٍ مَا نَوَى. And he said that all the actions are based on our intentions. And everybody's going to get exactly what he's intended. If you work hard and you fall short, a tawfiq min Allah. The only way that we can find any success in this life and anything that we do is only from Allah. If we don't find success, at least we put in the effort. At least we tried. So this is what the book is. This is a guidance for those people, for the people of Iman. He said, Amen, hudan wa shifa. So it's a guidance. And it's a cure for the diseases of the heart. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَالَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ فِي آذَانِهِمْ وَقْرٌ وَهُوَ عَلَيْهِمْ عَمَى أُولَٰئِكَ يُنَادَوْنَ مِن مَكَانٍ بَعِيدٍ. Now he talks about the other people, the people that don't benefit from the Quran. The people that just live their days just, neglecting it. He said, وَالَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. And the people who don't truly believe. Because a person might say something with his tongue, but it's not really in his heart. For the people that don't truly believe, fi adhanihim waqar, and their ears is deafness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put deafness in their ears. That when they hear these ayat being recited to them, they don't understand them. They sit back and they say, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand it, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give them the understanding. Because the iman is not truly penetrated their heart and taken over their heart. So whenever these ayat are recited to them, they don't understand. فِي آذَانِهِمْ وَقْرٌ. There's deafness in their ears. وَهُوَ عَلَيْهِمْ أَمًى. And they're blinded. They can't even see the truth and they can't hear the truth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept it away from them because of the sickness in their hearts. The sickness in their hearts, they can't hear the truth and they can't see it. He said, أُولَٰئِكَ يُنَادَوْنَ مِن مَكَانٍ بَعِيدٍ. He said, these are the people that get called from far away. Imam Ibn Jarir, rahimahullah, al-Tabari, he mentioned about this ayat. He said, مَعْنَاهُ كَأَنَّ مَنْ يُخَاطِبُهُمْ يُنَادِهِمْ مِن مَكَانٍ بَعِيدٍ لَا يَفْهَمُونَ مَا يَقُولُ. He said it's like the person, the one who's speaking to them. And in this case, in the speaking to them, Allah is speaking to you in the Quran. That when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking to them, it's like He's calling them from far away and they can't understand anything that He says. Now, why can't they understand? Because of that sickness in the heart. So the deafness is going into the ears, and then the blindness is going over their eyes, and blindness in the heart, and then they can't even perceive the truth. What punishment is worse than that? What punishment is it that you as a Muslim have lived your whole entire life, how many years in Islam, and you don't even understand the book of Allah? But that is a huge punishment. That is a punishment. That's a punishment that becomes about because of our sins. So we need to get right. We need to get right. We need to get back to the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and get back to doing the things that we're supposed to do. That way that we can have that understanding. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the tawfiq to understand the Quran and act on it. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المؤمنين استغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه ونصلي ونسلم على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, He said, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ يَا رَبِّي إِنَّ قَوْمِي اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, He said that the messenger said, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ, that the messenger said, يَا رَبِّي, oh my Lord, my people, قومي اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا, that my people have abandoned the Quran, abandoned it, neglected it and abandoned it. Here it is. This is the messenger saying about the messenger because why? Because when he came to the people in Mecca to tell them about the message, they don't want to listen. They want to start calling him names. But now we have Muslims that have now taken this Quran mahjura, that they have abandoned it. They have, first off, it started with the people abandoning the acting on the Quran. They read the Quran, but they don't act on it. Then the people started to abandon the understanding of the Quran. Well, now they read the Quran, but they don't seek to understand it anymore. They just read it like riyadha, like exercise. And Ramadan, just read the Quran. How many times can I finish reading the Quran? No understanding. Now the people have abandoned even the recitation of the Quran, where it becomes like an item that you keep on the shelf until Ramadan comes around. Then you pull it off the shelf and say, okay, I'm going to read the Quran in the month of Ramadan. It's abandoned. So you've abandoned the recitation. You've abandoned the understanding. You've abandoned the action upon the Quran. What are you waiting for from punishment? What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for like a fire to come out the sky? There's no greater punishment than this. There's no greater punishment, again, that you live your life as a Muslim and you don't understand the book of Allah. And even if you understand the book of Allah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not give you the ability to act on it. To understand it and act on it. That means you're mahroom. All of us, if that's a sickness in our hearts. So this is something that we have to fix. The abandonment of the Quran, it stops when we start reciting it, when we start understanding it, and we start acting upon it. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, الَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ يَتَلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. So this is the opposite. The opposite of the people that abandoned the Quran and neglected the Quran. These are the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, الَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ. These are the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the book. يَتَلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ, that they recited it. They recite it in a manner that is what? That it gives it, they give it its rights. This doesn't mean recitation only. The recitation, the tilawa here, even though the word tilawa in the Arabic language means recitation, but haqqa tilawatihi, it means that they recite it, they understand it, and they act upon it. They see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded them to do in the Quran, they do it. They see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited them from, and they stay away from it. These are the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about, haqqa tilawatihi. And then he said, أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ. These are the people that believe in the Quran. These are the people that believe in it. And Allah and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down. Nobody else. Only the people who what? يَتَلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ. The people that recite it in truth. That means that they recite it, understand it, and act upon it. Those are the people that believe in it. He said, well, and then he talked about the opposite. He said, وَالَّذِينَ he said, أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِهِ. And whoever disbelieves in it is ungrateful for this blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him, and he acts in disbelief and neglect and abandonment of this book. And he said, فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. And these people, they are going to be the losers. Success in this life, it comes from this deen. Success in this life, it comes from Allah. It doesn't come from anything else. You might try to find some type of temporary success that you go out and get something from the dunya. But see, look at your life. Look at your life. The majority of the people are depressed every single day of their life. You're depressed because you're not doing the things that you were created for. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَا خَلَقَتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And I did not create the jinn and mankind for any other purpose except for what? To worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. If you're not fulfilling that obligation and the reason of your creation, you expect to be happy in this life? Do you expect to find sa'adah? Happiness in this life and happiness in the next life, it only comes through the obedience to Allah. It only comes from you doing the things that you're commanded to do. You start to become free from all this tiredness. This dunya brings you nothing but tiredness. It brings you nothing but anxiety. This dunya brings you nothing but depression. You don't find that with the book of Allah. You sit down with the book of Allah, you find tranquility. You find happiness. You find the truth. And you find peace and comfort in yourself. So why are you wasting your time? You're going in the wrong direction. You're going in the wrong direction. You want that happiness in this life and the next life. You know what you got to do. Be a man and do what you got to do. Get back to the obedience of Allah. Get back to the book of Allah. Read the book of Allah. Try to understand the book of Allah. The people that don't understand the Arabic language, priority number one. Priority number one. I would rather starve to death and die with the understanding of the Quran than to sit here and live my life eating and die and don't understand the book of Allah. What type of death is that? That is the most dishonorable death. As a Muslim, to live your whole life and you die in that state is dishonorable. That's dil. I mean, subhanAllah. Can you think of any debasement worse than that? You spend your life in the disobedience of Allah. This is not the way to go. And all of our deaths are coming. Allah musta'an. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and I conclude with this. Just to show you the greatness of this book, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Alhamdulillahi alladhi anzala ala abdihi al-kitab wa lam yaj'alahu aywaja qayyiman liyundhira ba'san shadidan min ladunhu wa yubashshira al-mu'minina alladhina ya'maluna salihati anna lahum ajran hasana. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, He said, Alhamdulillah, all praise is due to Allah. Alladhi anzala al-kitab, the one who sent down this book. على عبده الكتاب. He sent down this book on his servant and to his servant Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَلَمْ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ عِوَجًا. There's no crookedness in this book. Everything calls you to the sirat al-mustaqim. The crookedness is in your disobedience to Allah. The crookedness is in the life that you live of neglect. That you think that you're really living for something. You think that what you're doing is cool. Wait till the angel of death comes to you and see how cool you think that everything that you're doing is. That's the iwaj. The awaj is the life that you live. That's crooked. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls you to the sirat al-mustaqim. There's no crookedness in this book. Everything brings you honor and brings you dignity and makes you mustaqim. And then after that He said, وَلَمْ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ عِوَجًا قَيِّمًا. قَيِّمًا because it calls the people to istiqamah. وَقَيِّمًا عَلَى جَمِيعِ الْكُتُبِ. Because with this Quran, every single book that came before it became mansukh. It became abrogated. This is the book from now until the day of judgment. This is the final revelation. The greatest book that we have. We have it. It's with us. The people before were not given what we were given. This is a huge mercy for us. Qayyiman, it's over all of the books that went before. Why do you neglect it? So he said, Qayyiman liyundira ba'san shadidan. It is calling and is warning the people against a severe punishment that's coming for the people that continue to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Min ladunu, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This punishment is going to come from Him for the people that disobey Him. وَيُبَشِّرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and it gives glad tidings to the believers. الَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ الصَّالِحَاتِ, those that do righteous actions. وَأَنَّ لَهُمْ أَجْرًا حَسَنًا, that they're going to have a great reward, a perfect reward. The best reward is going to be for them. So this is something we need to strive for. Go home, start making time, start reading the Quran every single day a habit. Don't just read Surah Al-Kahf on Friday and read the Quran in Ramadan. No, we have to make this a habit, but we also need to make it a habit to seek to understand the Quran and to seek to understand the Quran and to act on it. Wallahu musta'an. Allahumma thabbatna ala hadha deen hatta nalqaka bih. اللهم اجعلنا من أهل القرآن اللهم اجعلنا من أهل القرآن وخاصتك يا رب العالمين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين أقيموا الصلاة